Welcome back to Strata Games. I'm Andrew, and this is 9 great cards for Commander you aren't playing. In celebration of the long-awaited announcement of a return to Kamigawa, this week we are looking at cards from Kamigawa block. While as a whole the block was underpowered, Kamigawa is special because it has so many unique effects you can't find in other sets. Our white card for this week is Reverence. This enchantment costs 2 white and says, creatures with power 2 or less can't attack you. And that's it. It's a simple control effect that keeps you from dying to the tokens player, or just taking chip damage. Obviously, this will make people more likely to aim their big creatures at you, so you want to have a plan for dealing with those, but limiting the types of creatures that have the option to hurt you goes a long way toward helping a control deck win the game. There aren't many things that feel better than drawing a bunch of cards, but Overwhelming Intellect takes it a step further. It costs 4 blue for an instant with Counter Target Creature Spell. Draw cards equal to that spell's mana value. 6 mana is a bit expensive for Essence Scatter, but this is so much more than that. Think about it. Every opponent has a creature available to them at all times. So worst case scenario, you use this to counter a commander and draw a few cards. Best case, someone's trying to get their Galta or Kozilek into play. Even if you don't care for counterspells, give this one a shot. Like white, black's card for this week is a control enchantment. Knight of Soul's Betrayal costs 2 black and says, all creatures get -1/-1. Okay, so once again, you can use this to shut down the tokens player, but it also just slows down everyone's damage, giving you more time to assemble your strategy. You can even get creative by giving your opponents creature tokens just to benefit off their instant death. Last week, we gave you some solid land destruction options. Now, I'm not saying you should Armageddon your friends, but if you were going to, Acurator definitely wants in on that action. It's a 2/1 creature, Goblin Warrior for 1 red with, whenever a land is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, Acurator gets +1/+0 until end of turn. This is a creature who does just about nothing, until you destroy 20 lands and swing in for lethal damage at the player with no blockers. Of course, having this guy on the field is just telegraphing your plan, but he still seems like a real solid option. Remember when I mentioned giving your opponents 1/1 tokens? You should, it was only 2 cards ago. Seed the Land costs 2 green for an enchantment with, whenever a land enters the battlefield, its controller creates a 1/1 green snake creature token. Okay, so you can't necessarily control how your opponents use this, but there are so many things you can do with it. Obviously, it's great if you're playing a lot of lands, so ramp decks are good. Flooding the board with tiny creatures can make your Chain Reaction or Blasphemous Act better. You could goad them all. You can drain your opponents when they die. Get creative and see how you can put this one to use. It's just got so many options. Full disclosure, there aren't a lot of multicolor options in Kamigawa block, but despite my limited choices, I do think Genju of the Realm could stand to see more play. It's an enchantment aura that costs white, blue, black, red, green, and it has Enchanted Land. 2, Enchanted Land becomes a legendary 8/12 spirit creature with trample until end of turn. It's still a land. And when Enchanted Land is put into a graveyard, you may return Genju of the Realm from your graveyard to your hand. So this can be a huge recursive beater. Now, one reason it might have trouble is because if your opponent exiles your land creature, that doesn't give you your Genju back. And auras are quite vulnerable in general. But now that we have Lotus Field, the first land with hexproof, it's easier than ever to get in with this guy. The other problem is that it can only be played in 5-color decks, and decks that run 5 colors have the most competition for slots. After all, they have literally every card in the format to choose from, but I do see this as a solid finisher for a controlling build. Our artifact for today is Orochi Hatchery, which is an artifact that costs XX and reads, Orochi Hatchery enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it, and 5 tap. Create a 1/1 green snake creature token for each charge counter on Orochi Hatchery. I've already listed some of the many possible things to do with tokens, so assuming that you do want to make tokens for some of these reasons, why would you choose this token creator? Well, because the X cost goes great with ramp, and the charge counters work with proliferate, and these are 2 of the most popular commander themes. This card is, if a bit expensive, very versatile. And hey, bonus if you're playing one of the 5 commanders from the block that care about snakes. Boy, does Kamigawa have some good lands. Ugh, not those. No. Ow, my eyes. Aiganjo Castle is a legendary land with tap, add white, and white tap. prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to target legendary creature this turn. While this whole land cycle is amazing for providing colored mana while entering untapped, and for buffing your legendary creatures, Aiganjo Castle is the most underplayed. Yes, damage prevention tends to be a bad effect when you're running spells to do it, but this damage prevention lives in your mana base and helps keep your commander alive. This is most valuable in decks with a lot of legends, or whose commander is very vulnerable to damage-based removal, but it'll go great in any white deck with a land slot to spare. And our wild card for this week is Soul Blast. This instant costs 3 red, and says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice all creatures you control. Soul Blast deals damage to any target equal to the total power of the sacrificed creatures. This is like a fling that tosses your entire board. With enough total power, you can kill a player outright. That seems amazing. Of course, you don't want to just sacrifice your entire board willy-nilly, but maybe they're going to die to that board wipe anyway, and this is a good way to give some purpose to their otherwise senseless deaths. These are our favorite picks from Kamigawa Block, but let us know which cards you think are undervalued. And be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you'd like to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.